Gridiron Grinder! Hut hut hike!
All right, it's Friday night, Gridiron Grinder time. I'm Ryan. With me, as always, is my buddy James. Just a couple of dudes hanging out, talking about what's going on in the NFL each week. James, my man, this is episode 106, still running strong here. For everybody who's watching tonight, we are going to take a look at the AFC and NFC East Outlook, and so we'll kick things off with name that stadium like we always do. Then we'll jump into the news from this past week. Then we'll cover our outlook, which is basically our team record predictions now that we're on the cusp of the season being here. And last but not least, we'll finish things off with question of the week. And so, with all that being said, how's it going tonight, James?
It's going good. How's it going with you?
Good, man. A little bit scatterbrained, but I'm sure as we go, I will find my focus and we'll kick some ass like we always do.
I'm scatterbrained half the time, so.
Yeah, scatterbrain, spaghetti brain, whatever you want to call it. I hear people say it a lot of different ways, but it's okay. It's Friday. It's all good. We're talking football. I'm sipping on some whiskey. I'm feeling happy, man. So, all right, let's jump into Name That Stadium. And so, for anybody who's watching, this is the part of the show where, as you can see, James is out there traveling the country. Every week he's got a different stadium in his background. We're just asking if you think you know what stadium that is. Hit us up in our comments section. The first person to get the correct answer will get a special shout out in next week's show. And so, James, why don't you tell us where were you at last week, man?
So last week I threw a little bit of a curveball. We were talking about Madden, and Madden coached the Raiders while they were in Oakland and while they played at the Coliseum. So I went with a little old school pick and went with the Coliseum, set up for football with the baseball diamonds still in the field, so early season.
Yeah, I liked that one, man. That was cool to watch. And yeah, you explained it to me before the show. And um, yeah, that was a nice little touch, man. That was cool. Yeah, and we had no takers, unfortunately. So, maybe this week we'll get a little bit more action. I will say this in plus news, um, our video from last week already went over 30 views for the week. And so, compared to a couple of the ones before that were lagging, it looks like that last one at least is off to a better start. Looks like it's got a little better of a trajectory for, being summertime here. But, hey, will it hit that 150 mark like our one video? I don't know, man. But, 30 in 1 week, that's good for us. So I'm happy about that shit.
Oh shit, we're up to 150 on a video? Damn.
Yeah,
I didn't see that.
our super early team record predictions went over 150, I believe. So I don't know the exact number, but I saw the CMU players in the NFL was creeping up there still. In that one, those two just keep moving, man. A lot of the other ones, it seems like they've been hitting, I don't know, like that 50, 60 view area, and they just kind of tail off from there. So, but those two, they still been going strong, man.
I didn't know people were still hitting that one up. It's good.
Yeah, I mean, now that we're doing our divisional outlooks, maybe that puts that one down because we're basically doing that over, but in a more detailed view now. But that's okay. It was a good one, and maybe that bodes well for these next 4 weeks. So, fingers crossed.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's move it on over and let's do our recap of this past week. James, I will, I guess, start off with the Hall of Fame game was last night. And, a lot of the news is talking about the volume of usage that the running backs had for the Raiders. Um, and McDaniels already came out and kind of like defended it. Um, I don't know, man. The preseason games nowadays, it seems like it's almost all backups. And, years ago, you would catch a certain amount of drives of the starters and, get to kind of see they shake off the rust and whatever else. You don't really see that anymore. So I don't know. I thought it was all right. You got a new head coach, new to the team anyhow. Why not get your vets out there and get them some practice? And make sure you know what you got in those guys and that they can actually run your playbook and do it. And so, what did you think about that, man? You got any bones with that?
I don't have any bones with it. It's actually not that surprising to me because if you think about it, the Raiders chose not to pick up Jacobs' fifth-year option, so they're just going to run him into the ground this year and move on from him.
I didn't think about it that way, but it does make sense. He wasn't selected by this regime. Um, he's been kind of up and down in his career. I think he's a good running back. I think he can do well for him. But yeah, especially you look at what McDaniels did in New England with that running back by committee. No way are they going to pay big bucks to a guy with Vegas. But time will tell. And yeah, I
Well,
mean, hey, if he
they
lights,
already have his replacement on the team, so I mean,
are
they're
you talking
starting right.
about the guy that they drafted this year? I forgot his name. Or
Zamir White.
is that the guy? You think
Yeah,
he's
Zamir White. He's going to be their starting running back next year. I almost said quarterback. That'd be interesting. He's going to be the starting running back next year in Vegas. And in fact, I shouldn't say this because we're in the same fantasy league, but he's one of my late round targets to pick
he's a
up.
sleeper for you? Yeah.
That's going to be like my keeper for the next like 3 years.
All right. Well, you can snag him, and I don't know. I'll slip you a name later on that you stay away from, and we'll just, collusion. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
one of us has
Um,
got to win.
yeah. Well, hey, I got the trophy. I won it last year. So, I'll have to show the trophy off in one of our shows, but it's at my office right now. So,
I'm surprised
um,
that you don't have it just sitting behind you and you kind of every
I
time when you
know,
mention something
man.
fantasy, you just kind of go like this and say, "See what I
Well,
mean? I know what I'm talking about."
ever since I moved, man, I still don't really have a proper setup. I got to figure it out. Like the last house, I had the shelves behind me. I could do a lot with it. Here I'm just hanging out in the basement, which isn't bad, but I got to I don't know, maybe turn to the side and put some stuff up behind me or something. I'll figure it out. But
Yeah.
but thanks for putting a little bit of pressure on me. All right. So in other news, James, um, well, I guess from the Hall of Fame game, Trayvon Walker, he got some pretty good praise. Sounds like he looked pretty good. One of the guys I saw or was reading about said that he looked just like a man among boys, like he was just bigger on the field than they were expecting and just physically imposing and just, looks like he's going to be potentially pretty solid. It's way too early to know, but he just looked the part, I guess, on the field is a good way of putting it.
What's not being picked up on the camera and what you can't see is I'm sitting here rolling my eyes at it. Dude was playing. Dude, dude was playing against backups.
Well, that I guess there you go. Let's just point that out. Yeah, it's
And
preseason, a lot of backups, and yeah, he blew up the scrubs.
yeah. And on that note, who's the lineman that Vegas drafted?
Oh,
Uh, uh,
geez, I'd have to pull up my spreadsheet.
hold on, like, cause I hear I he looked like shit against Jacksonville backups.
I did hear something about the Raiders' offensive line is looking a
Alex
little sketchy.
Leatherwood.
Yeah.
Leatherwood looked like shit last night, and he was playing against backups. That's concerning.
Yeah, that's not good. I did see Derek Carr and Devontae Adams hanging out on the bench together. So, old pals, chilling.
They're old pals, went to college together.
Okay, so Hall of Fame game aside, I saw that the Ravens rookie center, Tyler Linderbaum, looks like he got a little bit banged up. He's got some kind of a foot injury, going to be out a couple weeks, but we've got at least a few weeks yet before the season starts, so I'm sure he's going to be okay. This I would put more towards the puff piece side, but it's kind of relevant. We were talking about it a little bit last week. Looks like Michael Thomas is starting to pick up the intensity in practice, and um, maybe he'll actually play football, James. It looks like it's trending in that direction.
Maybe, maybe be surprised if he didn't. Like, I mean, he should be healthy. He hasn't played in what, like 2 years?
I know, but I don't, it just seems like there's always something fishy going on with him. And so, but they're saying he's like really showing his physicality in practice and looks like he's back to his old ways, which would be huge for the Saints. So,
Yeah, it would be, and that's they need that. I mean, if he comes back, I might increase my projection with the Saints. If he's starting to look like he's going to play more than like 4 games this year, I might bump them up a little bit.
yeah. Yeah, when I did my model, man, I put him in full force just to see what would happen. And they still got the rookie that they drafted, and then Jarvis Landry as well. Um, there's some question marks with Alvin Kamara now. He's got that off the field issue that's going on. But man, if they stayed healthy and things played out right, my model actually shows them having a pretty strong season.
Yeah, no, I think he has a shot at having a pretty strong season, but them having a pretty strong season. When I was doing my first picks, I thought I was going to have New Orleans because I think they have the best roster in the NFC South. I thought I was going to have them winning the division, and they kind of just were eked out a little bit by Tampa. But
Yeah, they have a really solid roster. I mean, they have forever. It's just a miracle they pull it off with the salary cap. But
mhm.
um, yeah, so in other news, James, Deontay Johnson, I don't think we hit this one last week. He had that 2-year extension with Pittsburgh. I want to say it was 36.5 million. A short deal, gonna get him some dough. Um, but it makes me wonder, why only 2 years? And we were just talking about DK Metcalf and Debo doing these 3-year deals. It's I don't know what is it the team maybe not so sure about him, or is it just these guys wanting to get more bites at the apple? You know, maybe they think the salary cap's going to keep going up, which it looks like it will. And so if they do their deal shorter and pay goes up, they get more opportunity to rise with it, if that makes sense.
Well, I like the deal for Deontay Johnson. I mean, 2 years, 39.5 million with 27 guaranteed. I like it for him because he has to show a little bit more on the field, and if he shows just like a little bit more on the field, I mean, he's a 25. He'll get 25, 20, $28 million a year in his next contract, which is why it's good that for him that it's only a 2-year deal.
Yeah, I mean that I gotta believe that's what's going on with these wide receivers, and it's going to be other positions too. They're going to say, "Hey, I don't want to be signed in for 6 years like they used to do. It's going to be give me 2, 3 tops because I'm betting on myself, and I can make way more in a couple of years than I can now." All right, so James, the big thing from this past week,
Before you go
Deshaun
to
Watson.
before you go to that,
Yes.
there's injury news that has to get out there.
All right, get it out there.
Matthew Stafford is having elbow pain.
Oh, I saw like some kind of tendonitis or something.
Yeah, and he's I mean they're trying to rehab it, but there's a little bit of concern with it. And I read an article earlier on the craziest fucking scenario. If Stafford's going to miss time, the Rams get Jimmy G.
Oh man.
Not via trade though, because I kind of joked about it at the beginning of the show. Jimmy G's salary becomes guaranteed the start of week one. It's $24.5 million.
Okay.
So by the start of week one, San Francisco will either have traded him or cut him. And it's not out of the realm of possibility that they cut him.
Yeah.
And if that happens, he'd be free to sign with anybody.
Yeah.
And
Why
if
not go to the Rams if Stafford's out?
yeah,
I mean, if you're a GM, if you're John Lynch, I mean, you would just trade him anywhere for a 7th round pick before you would cut him and let him go to the Rams.
Yeah.
I gotta believe. You just be like, hey, just give me your 7th round pick for next year. Just anything so that I don't have to see him play in my division.
Yeah, but the only team that really needs a quarterback is Seattle. We were talking about it before. Geno Smith and Drew Lock are sub 70 for Madden and 67, which is the lowest that lineups ranks.
I don't know, man. Maybe the Giants are just playing coy, and you go. I'd kick the tires on anything. I'd kick the tires on Cleveland. I mean, dude, I would just maybe not even to be a starter. I would just be like, hey, Bill Belichick, you want this guy back? Give me next year's 7th round pick, and you can have him back up Mac Jones for the year. Whatever. I don't care.
Yeah, I know. I do whatever I can to trade him to not have to see him.
Trade him to Tampa Bay so Brady can just, you're my bitch, So,
That was the other news of the week.
oh, the Dolphins?
Yeah.
All right. So what was it? They lost a 1st round pick and then
They
a
lost,
future third.
yeah, first round this coming year and third round next year or the
The
year
year after, I think.
year
Yeah.
after or something.
And then the
Because
owner has been suspended.
suspended for, ironically, 6 games.
Oh, I didn't know that. When I read it, it was
October 17th, which happens to be 6 games.
okay. All right, because I saw it was an indefinite thing, but maybe that was just because they were waiting to get the details. But
Yeah, and he
um,
was fined some amount of money. I don't remember the amount of money for tampering with Tom Brady
yeah, Sean Payton.
and Sean Payton. Even worse, they started tampering with Tom Brady before he was a free agent, before he signed with Tampa
I saw that.
in
Yeah.
2019, and they didn't get him. The league also kind of slipped in there that there was credibility to Flores's statement that he was offered $100,000 per
Yep.
loss,
I heard about that. Yeah.
and but this feeds into the other story that we're going to talk about in a minute. They announced this. It happens to be six games for Ross. They announced that suspension after the Watson ruling came down. Before they appealed the Watson ruling, which tells me that they're now going to go as part of their appeal saying 6 games is too light because, look, we just suspended an owner for 6 games for doing
Oh,
this.
use that as leverage. I got you.
Use that as because the Sue Robinson cited all sorts of precedent that 6 games was what people get suspended for this. Well, the NFLPA, I think, is going to go scorched earth. Let's go to Watson. Watson was suspended for 6 games. He also, as part of the ruling, even though this wasn't considered as part of the discipline for Watson, if you read it, he is only allowed to get massages from team-approved masseurs.
Yeah, I saw that one, man. That's not good.
And so she gave him 6 games, which the league then had league or the NFLPA, which the NFLPA said they were just going to respect the decision and not appeal it. Had 3 days to appeal it.
Yep.
And they decided to appeal it. Apparently, they're pushing for more than a year. They're pushing for an indefinite suspension, minimum of a year or more, plus a hefty fine.
Yep.
And Goodell today or yesterday appointed Peter Harvey to hear the appeal. And Peter Harvey, as part of his, he was a federal prosecutor he was Attorney General for New Jersey. He he knows this is part of what the NFL said about it, about him. He has his expertise in criminal law, including domestic violence and sexual assault. He's advised the NFL on workplace policy, development of workplace policy, including the NFL's personal conduct policy.
Okay.
And he's also been in other arbitrations the designee appointed by Roger Goodell. He happens to be he happened to hear the Ezekiel Elliott disciplinary appeal. And it's just crazy, like, because if you read what this Sue Robinson said about Watson, she said that the NFL carried the burden to prove that Watson violated the personal conduct policy by engaging in sexual assault and conduct that poses a genuine danger to the safety and well-being of another person, and conduct that undermines or puts at risk the integrity of the NFL. Also said stuff along the lines of how he shows no remorse. He basically says he doesn't do anything wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I heard that they only looked at 5 of the cases, too.
Yeah, but that's all the NFL presented.
Yeah.
That's all the NFL presented to Sue Robinson. And what was it? Oh, apparently before it was heard by the Sue Robinson, the NFL offered Deshaun Watson a 12-game suspension and like an $8 to $10 million fine. And what I'm reading is, under no circumstances does the NFL want Deshaun Watson to play the game against the Houston Texans.
Oh, all right.
That's where the 12 games came, because the Browns' 12th game is the Houston Texans.
I mean, you'd think it's just a matter of time before he's going to end up playing Houston after this season. So,
right, but this game's in Houston. It'll be another 8 years until they have to play at Houston.
Okay.
Is that right? No.
I think it's shorter because it's within the conference, but
another 6 years.
Okay. Either way, yeah, I got you.
So it'll be another 6 years, which then him being a Cleveland
it's all
Brown,
water under the bridge, man. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And it's just, I'm kind of surprised Goodell didn't hear it himself and just say, you know what, it's a indefinite suspension. Fuck you, Deshaun. You did all this shit, and you can't do that.
Yeah.
The thing about it is I think what the NFL is going to argue in its appeal is, because the former federal judge said that use previous suspensions as precedent.
Yep.
I think the NFL is arguing that Deshaun's conduct is unprecedented, so therefore you can't cite previous suspensions as the precedent. And the NFLPA is probably going to go all scorched earth and talk about, like, Bob Kraft, the whole Jerry Jones issues that are going on. Bob Kraft was charged, but then the charges are dropped of the same thing. Everything Daniel Snyder's doing, and the owners weren't suspended for that, which is why I think the NFL suspended, which happens to be 6 games, Ross for as long as they did, and they suspended his partner too for the same amount of time.
Okay.
Or the partner in the team for this, so they can say, well, this guy just did tampering and we suspended him for 6 games. What do you think? Why should Deshaun's be equal to that?
Yeah, so the NFLPA is going to say, oh, tampering's way worse.
How is tampering way worse than
Well,
alleged
they're
sexual?
it's because they're going to try to do whatever angle they can to make it not hurt their guy. So, I don't know, but yeah, I mean, hey, so yeah, I don't even know what to say. I think you gave us a lot of information, and it's a union thing, man. It's, you got management and the union, and they're fighting it out, and now they got a third party getting involved because every time they have one of these come up, it's just going to turn into people suing other people, and it becomes a mess. And so, this is just the way that it works when there's tension like this. And so, I don't know, man.
Yeah, and one thing I'm trying to remember. I think it was. Yes, it was Trevor Bauer of Major League Baseball. He was accused of something similar. I think he was actually accused of actual sexual assault,
Okay,
and Major League Baseball suspended him for 2 years,
gotcha.
which I think that's probably the most similar to Watson. What was it, 60 massage therapists that he sought out?
It was a lot, man.
Yeah. So I think that's the most similar. So if you go by that, 1 year's a blessing.
Yeah, 1 year's pretty easy. Let
Yeah.
off's pretty easy. Yeah,
Yeah, but
I got you.
then again,
Well,
people like Watson, Trevor Bauer, he kind of got hit with what I would call the jerk tax because nobody in the Major League Baseball or the union liked Trevor Bauer.
I got you. Well, we talked too about Watson's pay situation and how it was structured to only be like $1 million or something this year.
Hmm.
I mean, that just reeks shadiness when you're saying, oh, hey, it's going to be, 6 games out of a season, so like a third of your pay on $1 million instead of 30 million. It's like,
Yeah.
come on. Like, obviously, there was some shady shit going on there when that was designed.
Oh, that's the exact reason it was designed. I mean, I talked about that when he was traded and signed the new contract. They set it up so if he's suspended this year, it's the least amount of money out of his pocket.
Yeah, that's garbage, man. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think it's bullshit too.
Yeah, and I think you were talking about it. It's like the league needs to review that for the future of this of, okay,
Hmm.
well, if you get punished, it's now basically going to be based off of like your average annual pay or something. Some way to make sure that there's no loophole to get out of it.
Yeah, it would what you do however many games. It's like 157 games, and it's a $330 million contract. So it's what, like 2 million per game, and then so 6 games. So minimum amount of money lost should be 2 million, $12 million, and you're only going to lose 330,000. So therefore, your fine's $11 million
Yeah.
or $11.5 million, and just take it over the average game check for the life of the contract, because to sit here and structure your contract to where you're the least hurt if you get suspended. First of all, it tells me you did shit wrong, but
Yep.
then you're not. Then you're coming out saying you didn't do shit wrong, but apparently from what I heard, the
I'm
from what I read
innocent,
about
but
this.
I did all this shady stuff just in case.
Yeah, from what the reporting was on his contract is this light year, shall we call it, was insisted upon by Watson's agent in the contract.
Yeah.
So I did
Duh.
all this. I did this, but I'm going to make sure that I don't. don't lose that much money because of it when I get suspended.
Yeah.
Yeah, fuck you, jackass. That just for that he should be suspended for 3 years.
Yeah. Yeah. Compound those penalties, man. All right. Well, we can stop beating the dead horse. You know, it's
Yeah.
shady. It's not good. Um, I don't know. I will say this, and we're not doing the AFC North tonight, but my model still actually has Cleveland looking pretty decent because with or without Watson, they still have a pretty solid roster.
Yeah, and if you go by the 6 games, they have
Oh, a
they're
puff first part of the season, man.
yeah, like week 5 and 6, okay, yeah, the Chargers in New England. Chargers, New England, Baltimore, Cincinnati. Yeah, that's a tough stretch, but their first 4 games are
Yeah.
Carolina, the Jets, Pittsburgh, Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean it's you're going 4-0 even with Jacoby Brissett. You're just going to run the ball all day and you're going to go 4-0.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. Well, hey, moving on, moving on. I had some other news things. We'll just hit them real quick. More criminal stuff. Marquise Brown, criminal speeding. He got arrested for. We'll find out what all that means. You
Okay,
know,
criminal speeding. What he got arrested for was he was either going more than 35 miles an hour in a school zone, more than 20 miles an hour over the speed limit, or more than 80 miles an hour.
yeah. See, I heard it was a more than 80 mile. Or I thought when I read it, it was more than 85.
Yeah, 85.
Uh,
Sorry.
but it's like, well, if you're on the freeway going 85, I mean, it's like it's relative.
Yeah.
If you're on a road that the speed limit's 35 and you're going 85, that's fucking batshit crazy. But if you're going 85 on a road like here, some of the freeways are 75. It's like,
Hmm.
okay, yeah, you're speeding, but I know plenty of people that are doing something similar. So how big of a deal is it really? But with DeAndre Hopkins being out, obviously this is under the magnifying glass because they need this guy to play. So yeah, so we'll keep an eye on that one. Uh, Trevor Penning, rookie offensive lineman. Um, he, oh shit, I just lost my freaking train of thought, James. Where's my note on this guy? He got in 3 fights in back-to-back-to-back practices. Um, you know, it's the intensity's good, but you can't be fighting that much because you're gonna get pulled off the fucking field. I mean, it's just not, especially if it happens in a game, you can't be doing that. But um, yeah, Saints rookie involved in third altercation in 3 days. Okay, so Dennis Allen was forced to kick him off the field after the latest one. You know, hopefully he can get some focus because you
Hmm.
just you can't run rampant like that all the time. So, and then the last thing, James, I had was Anthony Barr, former linebacker from the Vikings. He has signed with the Dallas Cowboys, 1 year, $3 million deal. That's a bargain signing for a guy as decorated as him, which I think is safe to say he is like way past his prime. But Dan Quinn can probably get something out of him, I'm sure. So
Yeah. The last one I had was apparently Rich Ornberger, former offensive lineman for the Patriots, said that he slept through his alarm one morning and was going to be late for a team meeting with Bill Belichick. So, did you hear this?
no, no, but I just assume it's not good.
So, he was afraid that if he showed up late, he would get cut. And so he was driving and he saw this old beat up church van that was kind of sputtering on the road and rear-ended it on purpose.
Oh no.
Rear-ended it on purpose.
I was in a
And
car accident.
Okay, here's the quote. I
And
see
then
a
Bill
church
saw
van.
the police report and saw the time and was like, yeah, bullshit.
I see a church van in front of me that's all dinged up and it's got the black smoke coming out of the exhaust pipe. I'm just like, I'm gonna hit this car. I'm gonna hit this car because it's better to pay the insurance
Oh,
or like peel off this guy a couple $100 than embarrass myself being late for this Patriots team meeting.
so did he get cut anyhow? What happened?
No, he played for a while.
Oh, jeez. Well, hey, his strategy paid off.
Uh, when did how long did he play for the Patriots? He played for a long time. Like he says he barely hit it um just to have enough evidence
Yeah.
to
I
not
was in an
allegedly.
accident. I couldn't leave the scene. Yeah.
Yeah, to have enough evidence for says ultimately he decided to rear in the van. He noted that he barely hit the van just enough so that it dented his bumper, so he had proof of the accident.
Oh my gosh.
He when he finally got to the facility, Belichick's assistant at the time appeared upset with him, but told him to just wait for and the lineman coach. And the lineman coach saw right through his accent story.
Oh,
Yeah, I thought it was hilarious. Like to hear him tell it, like he's laughing while he's telling it. He played for the Patriots for like 2 or 3 years. Like, but I mean, he wasn't cut.
hey, it worked, you know? And yeah, I mean, I got to believe it. Bill Belichick, you don't want to get in his doghouse. So,
Yeah,
we've seen that happen many a time.
yeah, because that happened in his rookie year.
All right, good stuff. Well, let's wrap it up with the news and let's kick it over, James, and do our AFC NFC East Outlook. And so, yeah, basically, we're a couple weeks out and we're going to start going through week by week. Today, we're doing the East. Next week, we're going to do the West. After that, we're going to do the South. And then right before the season starts, we're going to do the NFC, AFC North. And that'll give us all of our basically record predictions league wide with the most up to date information we have. Obviously, over these next 4 weeks, people are going to get hurt, going to get traded. You're going to hear about rising stars and busts and all sorts of crazy shit. But this is our best guess right now of how we think these teams are going to do, all things considered. And nobody's got a crystal ball. Nobody can predict Tom Brady blowing out his knee or anything like that. And so we're just going to run with it. Cool?
I'm not saying Tom Brady's blowing out his knee. I'm telling you, he's not going to complete this year. As they say, mark the tape.
It
We'll
was just, yeah,
come back to this in week 7 and say, see, I told you back in August he was not going to do
38
this year.
minutes in. Yeah, I got you. All right, write it down. No, I wasn't saying Brady just to point that out. I was just throwing a name out there, but you did mention that. Yeah, it could be anybody, whether it's him or, in this case, you were talking about Stafford with the elbow thing. If that turns out to be something serious, that obviously derails a lot of what the Rams have going on, and it just if anything like that can totally change the dynamics for a team. But we're saying, hey, today this is what we know, this is what we think is going to happen, and even with that, we're making some assumptions. And so, like in my model, I've got Watson built in for a 6-game suspension. I think it's going to end up being longer than that, but until we get new information, I'm sticking with 6. For the Giants, there have been all sorts of rumors these last few days about Jimmy Garoppolo. I didn't build that into my model because until there's something tangible, I didn't want to go that far. But I did put all sorts of stuff in, guys that are likely going to start the season a little bit hurt, like James Washington and Chase Young and people like that. I did adjust them early on. And then with certain rookies, as the season goes on, I boost their rating a little bit because I expect them to get better, and just stuff like that. And so, the best we can do, and then there's always a narrative behind it. There's always, shit, a fucking monsoon comes up or somebody gets COVID or fucking whatever. And, stuff happens. That's just the way it goes, right? So,
Yeah.
but so yeah, AFC, NFC East. Why don't we start with the AFC? That's typically how we've done it alphabetically. We've got the AFC East: Buffalo, Miami, New England, and New York Jets. And so, James, why don't you kick it off here, man? Tell me how you see that playing out in that division.
So one thing that concerns me in picking the records for this division, and we forgot to hit in the news, is Poyer.
Oh,
Poyer had apparently a serious arm injury, I believe, in practice over the weekend, I think, or it might have been Monday. I don't remember when it was.
yeah, I think his elbow.
Yeah, and I haven't seen much updates on it.
I haven't
Uh,
either.
so I'm concerned that he's gonna miss some time. Actually, I just missed that. It was Tuesday. Yeah, they're not too Buffalo's not too concerned about it. It's going to
Okay.
be a few days, maybe a week. So, but I did kind of build back in a little bit of because Buffalo's kind of thin. There was it safety.
Um,
Yeah,
they,
safety. They're
they
kind of
they
thin at
typically
safety.
have a pretty deep secondary, but yeah, it's like,
They,
the way Sean McDermott runs it, it's like it could never be deep enough.
well, the thing with they're apparently from when I look at their roster, they're like thinnest, least talented positions where it kind of falls off is safety because they have Hyde and Poyer, and then it kind of
Yeah,
just
oh yeah, no, I mean it drops off. They got Jaquan Johnson, who's like, one of like the bare minimum rated guys. And so
yeah.
you got
And,
two high end starters, but if either one of them gets hurt, yeah, you've got some exposure.
yeah, so I ended up taking Buffalo to 14-3 and winning the East. I had them. I initially thought they could be 15-2, 16-1, but I think 14-3, 13-4, 14-3 is right around where they will end up.
Okay.
Um, then I have Miami at 9-8, and I especially like. I'm not. I'm not reading into the Tyreek Hill hype.
Hmm.
He's trying to build his quarterback up, and it's
Good.
all bullshit.
I think
It's
so.
it's all bullshit because nobody on that team will back him up on it. None of the other receivers have said anything similar
Yeah,
or
he's dropping
agree
dimes
with
to
it.
me too. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but I think I have Miami at 9-8. I think 8-9, 9-8. I went with 9-8 because that's kind of where they fell. They were at when I looked at it, and 8.5, 9 games was about where I was projecting them. So I just went with the 9.
Okay.
The team that surprised me when I did this, and it's similar. This team stayed the same from our way too early projection. Was the Patriots? I have them third in the division at 7-10. I'm just I'm down on the Patriots this year. I think last year they overachieved. I think last year McDaniel got what he could out of Mac Jones. I think he's going to
Yeah.
take a step back, and it's going to be especially with the co-offensive coordinators or whatever the fuck
Oh yeah.
their job description is of Joe Judge, who's never coached anything but special teams and head coach, and Matt Patricia, who's a flaming ball of shit.
Yeah, I could just picture him the way he used to ream the defense on the sideline. Like, come on,
Yeah,
you're not going to do that with the offense. It doesn't work that way.
yeah. So I think I actually still have them a little bit high, and it's the Belichick factor at 7 and 10.
Okay.
And then there's my dumpster fire um, of the New York Jets. I don't know what to say about the Jets. They just are a shitty team, and you would think that at some point they would get something right. I mean, the latest thing coming out of Jets camp is there's more concern with Zach Wilson hooking up with his mom's friend versus the actual
Oh,
play on the field,
jeez.
or some shit like that. I think the Jets will be lucky to win 2 games. I think they're who do I have them beating? I have them beating Seattle,
Yeah.
and I have them winning the home game against New England.
What about Chicago, man? I think they can beat Chicago.
I don't think they can.
Okay. I got them beating Chicago, Jacksonville, and Seattle. I got them going to three. So what do you have them at, two or one?
I have them at 2.
Okay. I'm just making notes here. I want to keep track of this. Okay. Yeah, so, for me, I'll just tell you, I had Buffalo winning it at 15-2, and I actually have them as my top seed in
Mhm.
the AFC. I almost had them at 14-3, but I had them playing in week 18 because there's another team I've got lighting it up in the AFC, which incentivized them to get that final win, which just so happened to be against New England in Week 18. And so, I like those divisional games at the end. It just seems like they're more inclined to play because you don't want to
Mhm.
lose to a rival. So,
Uh-huh.
but then I had
That's
Miami.
exactly how I have it too. I'm
Okay,
curious I'm curious on when we get to your other team because I'm wondering if it's the same team.
my, I'll tell you
Is it
what.
is it in the AFC West?
My other team was a surprise team.
Is it in the West?
No, actually, it's not.
Really?
I, I,
Interesting.
I think listen, I'm giving you my raw model, James, and there is some massaging that needs to be done. But I will just say this. I was shocked by a team in the AFC South with how well they went through my model. And I think in reality, there's probably going to have to be some adjustments, but I'm
Huh.
giving you just the raw model for tonight, and we're going to figure out where we go from here. So
That's interesting because I had a team that I well,
I could
we'll go.
understand the AFC West because there's some horsepower in that division, but that horsepower also beats up on each other too. And so maybe
Yeah,
that's
but
why.
that's only 6 total games. So
Yeah,
I mean, if you go 3-3, we'll get to this next week.
sure.
I think there's a legitimate case that all 4 teams from the AFC West make the playoffs.
It could happen, man. It could happen.
But
Yeah,
anyways,
yeah, we'll get
back to
there.
the AFC East.
Sure, yeah. Yeah, so Buffalo at the top, 15-2 on my side. It second place in the division, I've got Miami going 8-9. And I actually had them just edging out New England, who was also at 8-9. I went through all the tiebreaker rules on the schedule that I put together. It took me going to the fourth tiebreaker to show Miami beating out New England. But I wanted to make it legit because this is like our official outlook right before the season starts. Um, and I think Miami's rating is a little bit of a wild card because you got a new head coach. You've got a lot of questions about the quarterback, but the team is very clearly talented. And so if they put it together, I can see them easily beating 8 wins. But if Tua struggles, I can also see them falling short of 8 wins. And so the model put them at 8. I'm just giving you the raw model. New England 8-9. That was one where they almost went 9-8 if Buffalo was going to give them that last game, but they didn't, and so they go under 500. When I looked at New England's schedule And when I looked at their roster, there were just a couple unlucky things going on for them. And like one of them was they start the season 2 games on the road. And, a lot of times these Patriot teams, they get better as the season goes on. And so the way my model built it out, they actually get clipped off twice right off the bat, Miami and Pittsburgh. And that Pittsburgh loss is a bad loss. And, my model, maybe that's one you could easily criticize and give back to them, but it's on the road and it's early in the year, and it could just be a surprise loss. And so I kept it in there the way it was.
Hmm.
Other than that, I look at their team. They still have some question marks at wide receiver. The offensive line, they took a big gamble bringing in Cole Strange in the draft and trading what's his face to Tampa Bay. You know, it just there's a lot going on here. It's not the same old Patriots team. I do believe that the roster is getting stronger than it was a couple of years ago, but they're not quite back yet. And so, I I think I felt better about the Patriots last year than I do this year, to be honest. So I've had more time to kind of digest the guys that they have, and even with Belichick being a great coach, I think you can only get so much out of these guys. And so,
Out of
uh,
curiosity, which game do you have as the Patriots' first win?
all right, I've got their first win in Week 5 against Detroit.
Wow. Do you have them? Do you have them starting out 3-4?
You're talking about Detroit?
No, New England.
I got New England 0-4.
0-4, and then do you have?
Oh, and then from there, yeah,
Yeah.
from there they beat Detroit, they lose to Cleveland, and then they win their next three: Chicago, New York, Jets, Indy. Oh, and then they have a bye week, and then they
You forgot
win the
about
next two.
Cleveland. You forgot about Cleveland.
Yeah, I got them losing to Cleveland.
Got them losing to Cleveland, Chicago. Yeah, that's where our difference is on it.
Okay.
But yeah, because I have them at 7-10. I was just curious when you had them winning their first game.
Yeah, I mean it'd be pretty wild if it went that far. A
Yeah.
lot of people would be flipping, but you know, the model's the model, and at the end of the day, it's like when I did the model like this a couple of years ago, one of the things I looked at was, okay, the model's calling for this. In reality, maybe they win one here, but they lose one there, and sometimes it balances out, sometimes it doesn't. Nobody really knows, but I wanted to stick with it. I didn't want to manipulate it too much because every time you manipulate one game, it has a ripple effect through the rest of the model since everything's kind of interconnected. And so,
Mm.
for tonight's purposes, I let it rip. And then at the bottom, I got the Jets. I got them at 3-14, and you know, I think 3 games, honestly, I mean, anytime you say a team's only going to win 3 games, it's like, okay, come on, they'll find a few more than that. It's the quarterback thing is a big concern for me. I think
Hmm.
this team is getting better, but quarterback is extremely weak. I think wide receiver is still extremely weak for them. I think their offensive line's getting better. If they put a lot of priority on running the ball, and Brees Hall ends up being legit, Michael Carter picks up where he left off, like maybe that keeps them in games. But even then, their defense is not the greatest. You got a defensive minded head coach. I think they're getting a little bit stronger on the defensive line, which is a start, but they're really weak at linebacker. In the secondary, particularly at safety, is weak. Man, I don't know. And then I don't like their schedule, man. I don't think they got a lot of easy games. I mean, I'm just trying to even look at it. Like who, they play Chicago. I got them beating Chicago. They play Jacksonville. I got them beating Jacksonville, but I don't think that's a shoe in. And then I got them beating Seattle. Another one, I don't think it's a freaking a shoe in. Like they're just not good enough. But it just that's where the model gave them 3, and so I'm sticking with it for now.
Hmm. No, we're very similar with those with the AFC East. Like
And,
we're
and I
a
mean, I would
game
love
here,
to
a game
see,
there.
yeah, I'd love to see the Jets win more. I like Robert Saleh. Dearborn guy, went to, coached at Central Michigan. Obviously, great defensive coordinator with the 49ers. He seems like a good stand-up guy. I just think he's got the odds stacked against him with that roster.
Hmm.
But they did have a great draft, and if they can be patient, I think it can happen in time. But it's year two, and I mean, he's still got a really big uphill battle. And I don't think Zach Wilson's the guy. I think he's got to show us this year that he's matured and that he can really be, playing at this level. If not, I say you cut bait and you go somewhere else after this season. Don't
Hmm.
be messing around.
Well,
So
I have them with the
there's
first
your
pick.
Jimmy G spot, man. Come on. He knows Salah. Just get over there. Give him a chance to win some games.
Yeah, I have the Jets with the first pick, which this year's quarterback draft's a lot better than last year's.
Hmm.
Um, so we'll see what happens. But I I just like I said, I can't figure out how the Jets. I I can't believe the Jets can't figure this out yet.
Yeah, it's not good. Well, hey, all right. Let me flip it to you the other way here. So for Buffalo, who did you have Buffalo losing to?
So I had Buffalo losing to Green Bay,
Okay.
and I actually had them losing the last game of the season because they didn't need it.
Okay. So yeah, it was a throwaway game. I got you.
Yeah,
I got them losing at Baltimore and at Kansas City.
there's no way in hell. I'll bet you $100 right now that there's no way in hell
Because
that
of the,
Buffalo
the
loses to Kansas
to
City.
because of the playoff game. They're going to
No,
come back with a
because
vengeance.
Kansas City's a fucking terrible team this year. You can't replace MVS and what's his face from Pittsburgh don't replace Tyreek Hill.
Yeah, but maybe this is time for Clyde Edwards-Helaire, James. I don't know. Hey, listen, that's what the model pumped out. That's all I'm telling you. You know.
No, I know that's what your model pumped out, but there's no way in hell.
Yeah.
There's
Well,
no way in
yeah,
hell.
but think about it this way. And so here, I'm just gonna go back to it just for a second. So when I look at the model, it's a close game. There's like about a 1.7 point spread, which is not bad. But the thing is, it's in Kansas City, and let's see. I've got Kansas City coming off a win against the Raiders, so they've got a little bit of momentum, and it's a Patrick Mahomes thing. You've got two clutch quarterbacks going against each other. They obviously had the playoff deal last year. It's just one of these games where it's like basically the model spit it out, and I thought, you know what? Anything could happen, man. So
Which there's my annoyance. Why is it in Kansas City again this year?
I don't know,
They
dude. I
played
didn't make the
at Kansas
schedule.
City last year.
You're so angry. I didn't do it, James.
And and you say it's in Kansas City. Buffalo beat Kansas City in Kansas City last year, 38-20.
I understand, but my model, James, I'm going to keep saying this, my model, it has a home field advantage factor, which, if you look at the history of the league, minus COVID, it is a factor.
I know. And if I remember correctly in that game, fucking Josh Allen outdueled Patrick Mahomes. He did.
Yeah,
Here's the stat line. Josh Allen, 315 yards, 3 touchdowns. Patrick Mahomes, 272 yards, 2 touchdowns,
yeah.
2 interceptions.
Listen, I would love to see the Bills go all the way, win it, Josh Allen just totally dominate the whole way through.
The crazy thing about the stat line from that game last year at Kansas City is Josh Allen and Patrick Mahomes both led their teams in rushing.
Yeah, that shouldn't happen. I mean, with Buffalo, you can see that. With Kansas City, it's like, oh man, Mahomes, he can move a little bit. It's like I would say he's more of like a smart runner. He's
Uh-huh.
not like crazy athletic. but it's just they have no running backs apparently. So
Well, yeah, they have no running backs. That's the thing about it is they have absolutely jack shit at running back.
yeah, and I guess here's my one thing with Buffalo, which when I rate out all the position groups, I'm really going to see how big of a deal this is. But their offensive line actually comes in weaker than I was expecting it to. And I'm just looking at Kansas City. I don't know. I was going to say maybe that's a factor, but Kansas City's defensive line, you got Chris Jones, you got some guys, but they're not super highly rated other than Chris Jones. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Oh, see, I have Kansas City as the best pass blocking line and the fifth best run blocking line.
Oh, you're talking about their offensive line. I was talking about Buffalo's offensive line compared to Kansas City's defensive line.
Yeah, I have Buffalo's defensive line pretty shitty.
So
Or
Kansas,
offensive line pretty shitty. Sorry.
yeah, I mean, I got them as, I think, decent, but not as good as I thought. I have Kansas City's offensive line pretty solid.
I have Buffalo number 12 pass blocking,
Okay,
number 26 run blocking.
gotcha. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna have to get mine in order for next week so we can compare those notes. Yeah, but I mean, when you got Josh Allen, big hoss that can move, you
Hmm.
know, it would just be good to put like one more, like a stud on that offensive line for him. So that's my one concern with Buffalo.
Hmm. True.
All right, well, you want to flip it over? Let's look at the NFC East, James.
All right.
I gotta believe we're going to be off on this one. So, but why don't you kick it off, and then
All
I'll.
right. So
Yeah.
the winning the division on a tiebreaker,
Ooh, all right.
Philadelphia
Okay.
at 9-8.
Wow. Fuck. Okay.
Dallas second at 9-8.
Okay.
Washington third on a tiebreaker at 3-14.
Okay.
And then that leaves the Giants last at 3-14.
Yeah, I had a feeling we'd be pretty far off on this one.
And this is subject to change because if for some reason Jimmy G ends up in the Giants with the Giants, we'll save that for our dark horse teams. But the Giants could make the playoffs if they have Jimmy G.
Oh, I don't believe that at all. But okay. So I'll give you mine.
I said could. I said could.
Yeah. Well, any given Sunday, over and over again for 18 weeks, right?
Yeah.
uh,
Every
uh,
every every now and again the sun does shine on a horse's ass.
yeah. I like the yeah. Every now and then, even a blind squirrel gets a nut.
Yeah.
There's some good ones out there. So all right. So here we go, James. The model, if you will, has Dallas winning this and getting the 2 seed in the NFC. 14-3, monster record. Philly, also monster record. 12-5, getting the 6 seed. Washington, just under 500 at 8-9, and then down at the bottom, the Giants at 3-14. And so,
Hey, we had one the same.
yeah, I mean, hey, that's a start. Um, I will say this: Philly has gotten a ton of buzz this offseason, and I didn't believe it. I didn't buy into it until I saw the model pump out 12 wins. And now I would say that I'm still hesitant, but I'm warming up to it because I do like the model. I trust the model. This model got me 2/3 of my answers correct a couple of years ago when I used it. I'd like to believe that it's decent. And I'm actually pulling up Philly's page right now. Philly's another one of these teams, man. A few years ago, really good, really stacked team. They kind of went into disarray for a few years, but when you look at them again now, this roster is filling in again very nicely. That trade for A.J. Brown has their wide receivers looking very strong.
Mhm.
Their offensive line has been very strong for a long time. I like the way that looks, and you know me, I'm a big fan on the trenches. Their defensive line is freaking stacked. You know, they brought in Jordan Davis. They already had Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham and Hargrave, all these guys. Um, Linebacker, they brought in Hassan Reddick. Uh, you know, they already had Slay. They brought in James Bradbury. I mean, frick, James. It's like all these moves I heard about it, and I'm like, yeah, yeah, yeah. People are getting fired up. People are getting fired up. People get fired up. When I finally put it into the model and looked at it, it's like, wow, this is actually pretty impressive. And
Mhm.
I think in reality, sometimes all these pieces don't gel right away, and so is 12 wins realistic? Maybe it's a little bit high, but I could see why people are getting excited, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah. Out of curiosity, who do you have the Giants beating?
All right, let's take a look. The Giants, I've got them getting a win in week 2 against Carolina, another win in week 4 against Chicago, and then I've got them beating Houston in week 10.
Wow, we only have one game the same.
Who do you got them beating?
Jacksonville in week 7, Houston in 10, and I have them beating Minnesota in week 16.
Okay. Yeah, and Minnesota's going to be an interesting one when we get to the north because I would have thought they would have been better than what the model pumped out for them. And I'm starting to kind of, see some things that maybe I wasn't paying too much attention to before. But, I will tell you this, James, in the model, as I told you, home field advantage is a factor. And so it's like with the Giants going on the road to Jacksonville, I had about a 2 point spread in Jacksonville's favor. And so, you know, I say anything within three, you can kind of say, okay, make your case one way or another. Who do you like and why? Uh, but for the model's sake, I give it, you know, 2 points was close enough or was good enough to keep it in Jacksonville's favor. If it was like a half a point, maybe I would have dug a little deeper and been like, I don't know. So I actually had one game that was a dead even. It was like I had to go to the third decimal point to see who it
Jeez.
actually gave the win to. And it ended up giving the win to the team I was going to give the win to, so it was fine. But it was like, holy cow, like some games do get like razor thin on these margins, man.
No, I know. I know. I just with the Giants, the reason why I say that they could be a playoff team if they had Jimmy G is because outside of they have a lot of easy games on their schedule. I mean, you mentioned it, Carolina, Chicago. I had those as close games. Jacksonville, Seattle, Houston, uh, the Lions, Washington twice, Minnesota.
Yeah,
I mean, they're all very teams that are beatable.
yeah. I think the part where it falls out of favor in the model is that a lot of those games end up being on the road.
Hmm,
If
true.
they had more of them at home, I could see them having a couple more wins in the model.
Oh yeah, like because like Minnesota, Jacksonville, Seattle
Oh yeah, I mean if they had
are on
Jacksonville
the
and
road.
Seattle at home, those would
Mhm.
be wins in the model. I guarantee it.
Yeah,
Uh,
I could. I hear you there, and that. I'm just saying though, but with Jimmy G, that makes it. That's where I'm saying it makes
oh
it different.
yeah, no. If they had Jimmy G, man, if they had Jimmy G, see, it's tough because there's I would say one, two, three, four, five. There are 5 games that I could say maybe need to be rewritten, but that would
Hmm.
still put them at 8 and 9 in the model. And so, and then here's the thing is with the Giants in the model, and this is something that as the season goes on, I'll have to adjust. But right now, the model has a coaching factor. And because you're talking new head coach, um, his rating is only a 71 in the model. And so, he can show in time that he deserves to be higher than that, which of course has like a transcending effect throughout the rest of the season. And
Yeah,
so, my plan is really to reevaluate the coaching ratings after week 4. Because it's like, okay, now you got kind of like a quarter of action that you can look at and say, okay, are they doing good? Are they doing bad? Are the players behind them? It's like Dan Campbell, even though they're not winning, the players love that guy. And so it's like, okay, his rating goes up. But they're not winning, so his rating doesn't go up a ton. But it's like, you know, take it to a few years ago with Matt Patricia. He comes out of the gate losing, and he's like a hair away from a mutiny. It's like, okay, well, that, whatever the rating is, has to go down, because it's
yeah,
like you're not winning and nobody wants to play for you. So it's a lose lose. So, but that's stuff that, you know, he's an unknown commodity as a head coach. And so it's
yeah.
time will tell.
Which is very true. I just pointing out, like, if on mine where mine fall, like you said 5 games, I could possibly make the case for 6 games that would have to be rewritten on it, and
Okay.
that puts them in a tie with Philadelphia and Dallas.
Yeah, with the records you got at 9-8, yeah, that could have them right there, man. Yeah. Well, and a couple of those games might be. Well, I don't know if you would have Jimmy G. Maybe because Jimmy G and it's division games, maybe he snipes one of them off and takes them down, and then it puts them up. So yeah, I could see that happening.
Yeah, so I mean, like, because I have them losing both Washington games, which was weird to me that and which is why Washington got the edge over them. But so those two probably Chicago. Let me see, Chicago's 3, Carolina is 4. Yeah, it's just right there. Like, I could see them winning one of the Philly games, which then would put Philly down. But yeah, it's they're with Jimmy G, they're a fringe playoff team. I think 9 wins for the NFC is what's needed to make the playoffs. 10 wins to guarantee a spot in the playoffs. 9 wins to be in a tie for.
Yeah, winning the division.
Well, no, I have Dallas at 9-8, missing the playoffs, but I have other teams at 9-8 making the playoffs on
Oh,
tiebreak.
I gotcha. I gotcha. Yeah, I was just thinking, well, if they're a division winner, yeah, they're gonna get in. But yeah,
Yeah,
I hear what you're saying. Yeah, if it's a tie, yeah, then you got to look at wild card and who else is in play. Um, yeah, I mean, I will say this. So, when I look at my record for Dallas at 14-3, to me that seems a bit high, especially because they have some guys going into the season that are going to be hurt. And so, like if I was going to critique it, I might bring it down 2 games and say, okay, I'm more comfortable with 12-5. Uh, but like we talked about, I'm giving you the raw model for now. I'm not like
yeah,
really massaging too much because it has a ripple effect elsewhere. But that is something I could see happening in reality for Dallas. But that would still have them 3 games higher than what you have them. And I don't know, man. It's just me. I don't like Mike McCarthy.
yeah.
I actually was a big fan of his for a while, and then I just like really went hard the other way. The more I see of the guy, and the more, like when I watched him on Hard Knocks, I was like, oh my God, how's this guy a head coach? But the thing that helps Dallas big time is that their coordinators, Kellen Moore and Dan Quinn, are 2 of my highest rated coordinators, which are also factored into my model. And so I think that helps boost Dallas, and that's maybe why they're getting up to 14 in the model. But 14 does seem a bit high for these guys.
Yeah. Well, with Dallas, I have them starting out 4-4, and then the second half of the season. Well, no, I was thinking it was going to be 5-3.
I got you.
It's another team I have starting off at 5-3 and finishing 9-8.
So, all right. So you got Washington at 3. Man, I just going to my tab on Washington. So who do you have them beating?
So I have them winning one of the Giants games.
Okay.
I have them beating Houston,
Okay.
and I have them beating the home Philly game.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, so I've got them. I've got them also winning week 1 against Jacksonville at home. I
Yeah,
like that.
I looked at that one, and that was a possibility, but I just think that all right. So what gave the edge to Jacksonville was Peterson, because Peterson
Yeah.
was fired basically for pulling his quarterback and playing his third stringer in the final game of the season against Washington, and Peterson's going to really, really try to fire up Jacksonville to win this game. And I think Jacksonville, from what I saw last night, yeah, they look pretty bad, but I think that team would run through the wall for Peterson.
Yeah, and I think that as the season goes on, they're going to get better too. I think they're going to come together as a team. They're going to figure some things out. I'm trying to temper my expectations with Jacksonville just because I, I know that it's the start of a rebuild, and I don't want to go crazy and say, they're going to win 8, 10 games or whatever, and be a freaking homer. But I like Doug Peterson. When we did our review of the new head coaches, he was like my top guy that I thought, okay, you got a guy, he's won a Super Bowl. He's a legit leader, but you got to give him time to get his team under him and make it all happen.
Yeah,
Um,
and
yeah,
especially with Jacksonville, you have to be patient with them, especially this year, because they have a hard fucking schedule.
yeah.
They play at the Chargers, they play um they play at Kansas City, they play Baltimore, they play where's the other one I mean, obviously the Indy games, Indy, Tennessee in the division, but it's just kind of a rough after Jacksonville, they go Indy, Chargers.
Well, yeah, and I mean, some of their easy games are on the road.
Hmm.
They're playing at Chicago. They're playing at Philly. Well, Philly, maybe not. They're playing at Houston. I mean, it's like some of those games you would think it's like, well, because they're on the road now, you got to wonder. So, um,
Yeah,
yeah, no, I hear what you're saying, but yeah, no, I mean, they got San Francisco. They got some tough teams, man. I guess San Fran's a bit of a wild card, depending on what happens at quarterback, but. Um,
they don't play San Francisco.
I got them playing San Fran in Week 16. What we're talking Washington?
No, I was talking Jacksonville.
Yeah,
We
no,
got
no,
Jacksonville and Houston.
that's my bad. I was looking at Jacksonville in Week 1 on Washington's schedule. Yeah. Thank you, James. Thank you.
No,
That
I was
is
like,
my
they don't play
error.
San Francisco.
No, and so yeah, all right. So yeah, I guess it's the other way around. They're easier games. Washington is on the road.
Hmm.
Um, you got Detroit on the road, and you've got the Jets and Houston on the road. And so it's like, yeah. And then really at home, they've got some tough teams. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's hard to say, you know. Uh, but yeah, I mean, hey, as we put the pieces together for the other divisions, I mean, man, then it really, you start painting the whole picture here. It's gonna be interesting. I mean, we've already
Wait,
seen it. We were pretty close.
wait. Washington don't play the Jets.
Let me get this back. Washington. I have no. So I was just talking about Jacksonville playing the Jets.
That's really fucking weird. You said Detroit on the road, Houston on the road,
For Jacksonville.
for both of them. Outside of the Jets, what you described could have been Washington's schedule.
Uh,
That's why we're getting fucking confused on it.
yeah, yeah. It's my bad. It's my
Yeah,
bad.
no, like, but what you described, that could be Washington's schedule, or that could be until you mentioned the Jets, which is what confused me.
I gotcha. Yeah, because they had some overlap. Yeah,
They have overlap, and the overlap is our road games.
yeah. I get it.
Wow,
It's confusing
that's
stuff.
fucked up.
It's
That's
confusing
fucked
stuff.
up.
Yeah. Um, yeah, so I mean, I don't know. We were pretty close on the AFC East. We were a lot further apart on the NFC East. And
Mhm.
so I think we're gonna see where it goes with some of these other divisions. I think it's gonna be similar. We're gonna have some that are close, some that are far apart. I kind of already have a hunch as to which ones they are, but um,
Oh, I know one where I've already determined we're not even fucking close on.
oh, yeah. No, we'll have a few. We'll have a few. Well, and then hey, man, I mean, I told you, mine for Detroit came in way high, and
Yeah.
I don't like that because I'm a hard sandbagger for the
Mhm.
Lions. I never drink the Kool-Aid, and so the model might be calling it that high, and I'll report it from the model that high. But I will give you my commentary as to why I believe it'll be lower. But that's okay. That's okay. That's part of why we do this. And so, I guess, do you have any closing comments on the AFC or NFC East, James?
No, I think I hit all my points on that.
All right. Well, then, this may not be the strongest question of the week based on your record predictions, but I'll just ask you, which of the two divisions do you like more and why? I think, based off of the records, you would go, I would say AFC East, but yeah, I'll let you decide that. I would go AFC. Well, I would go NFC East because I got Philly being a surprise team and Dallas being a strong team. So overall, I got the records higher for that division, even though I got Buffalo as my top team across the league. So,
I have Buffalo as my top team across the league. I have them tied for top team across the league, I should say. I have them winning it on a tiebreaker because they didn't, with them not needing the week 17 thing. They had the tiebreaker. I had the other team winning week 17 to tie them, but Buffalo already had it wrapped up. Um, I think the NFC East is the easiest division in the league
based on their strength of schedule, you're saying?
based on their strength of schedule, based on how they've been the last couple of years. These teams really haven't turned it around.
Yeah, they've
Like
been
it's
soft.
um last year. I think of the two, it's definitely the AFC East. I don't think the AFC East is the toughest division in the league, but when you're going or the best division in the league, I have them at fourth, I would say.
Okay. Yeah, but
But I have
between
them
these
better
two,
than
you think,
between
yeah,
these two, definitely
yeah.
the AFC East. I mean, hell, I have my Super Bowl runner-up in winning the division, so or my AFC champion,
I got you.
and I have Philadelphia getting smoked in the playoffs to a team to be named later.
Okay. Yeah, see, I didn't do my playoff predictions yet. I've just got regular season, but I did think about that. I know you always like to do that. So by the time we get to the north, I'll have to put that together because I'm sure we're going to talk about that at some point. So, All right. Well, hey, so for anybody who's still watching, we hope you like the show. Hit us up with Name That Stadium, answer our question of the week, all that good stuff. If you haven't already, subscribe because you know that shit helps us out. And James, like always, man, it's been great. Any closing comments, questions, concerns?
No, I don't think so.
All right, cool, man. Well, hey, we'll be picking it up again next week. Moving over to the West. Take it easy, man.
All right, have a good one.
Gridiron Grinder. Hut hut hike.